Hi, Cassie. I hear you're trying a new style of debate known as a thought talk. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Thought talks are similar to debates, but they're less structured than debates. It's a situation where all the students are together in an open discussion. You have a few students who are responsible for all of the research and the fact-checking and presenting both sides of a debate topic. And it's a relevant political topic that the students have chosen. But every student is involved in a discussion aspect, so they can explore multiple sides of a situation, a political topic, and kind of express themselves and ask questions of one another.
Every single student that is inside of her classroom has different learning needs. They learn differently. They whether it be with paper or with games or with talking to the teacher one-on-one. And not only does she set goals for every single one of her students, but she meets those goals.
Okay, so as you think about this for your citizenship class, knowing that every student in our school takes citizenship, how do you learn about the learner variability that exists in that classroom? Class. Knowing that every student in our school takes citizenship, how do you learn about the learner variability that exists in that classroom?
Well, there's a couple things that I do. For instance, in a citizenship class, we tend to have about 28 to 30 students, and obviously that's a lot of different types of learners. For instance, in the class that I'm discussing here, I have 28 students. 2 of them are seen as GT students, one that I think probably should be cited as GT. I have a number of health issues. There are 6 that are cited, and they're mental health issues and physical health issues. 7 students of mine have an IEP, and that's a wide range of different learning abilities going on, including EBD, OHI, things like that, autism spectrum. And I have 2 students with 504 plans, and so you can see there's quite, an array of students. And what I usually do to kind of find out all of that background information when I get a new class is I start with the Skyward tab, and I look at all of the notifications on my student class list where it identifies 504 plans and health issues and things like that.
If I don't have a teacher that's willing to work with me one-on-one, because that's how I learn the best, then I probably won't do good in that class. And I have a pretty good grade in this class, so I really feel like Miss Brooks is one to get to know you. She's more like your friend that informs you.
I tend to look at academic history because my students, it showcases their grades all the way back to, I believe, 7th grade, and that's helpful with looking at patterns. I'll look at the RTI tab and look for interventions. I tend to, with citizenship, look for interventions that are related to what students are doing in their English classes. It helps me to see kind of what has been done to lead them to success with their English classes, because there's a lot of tie over with citizenship and obviously the codes help. I read the documents that go with their codes, like the 504 plans, the IEPs. I look at their attendance records.
Expectation, but if you can't meet a requirement, she goes out of her way to meet you in the middle.
So once you've understood the learner variability that exists within your particular class, how do you go about setting goals for each student within the thought talk, and how do you define success for such a wide range of learners?
There's an overarching goal that all the students understand these political topics better and are in a situation where they can form their own opinion about things. That's the goal for everybody. But I'm also looking at goals like students getting better at research skills and being able to engage in a thought talk, which sometimes can take an hour, being able to be in that setting and be appropriate with their responses and know what they're responsible for. And so I look at my learner variability and look at kind of breaking down the objectives in a way that meets each student. This particular student is on the autism spectrum. It became very clear that this student asks a lot of questions, needs a lot of guidance. A student like this, I will build into the research time appropriate question asking times and working with his team, being able to get help from students as well as me. I also started pretty basic. The students get to choose their topics. A topic in this situation, it was the nutrition guidelines for school lunches. Looking at just starting basic with what the student had already learned about that. Going back to like nutritional guides and the food pyramid or the plate, stuff like that. Just some visual things to get the student understanding that he already did have some background knowledge on that, and creating a situation where he feels supported in kind of exploring that topic on his own, and setting up a situation where there are appropriate times for him to ask questions and feel supported with that.
So how did you define success for this particular student compared to perhaps a student that is identified as gifted and talented?
With this student, I really looked at trying to help him feel more sure of himself. And so we talked about how we were going to break down the research process into the different sections, and I would be there to show him how to start and what to look for. I will create a situation where the students are working in different groups. They typically work in a group of 2 or 3 because there is a pro and a con and a background researcher. And so the way that I set up those teams is very purposeful in terms of what students need. And we just started with his basic opinion and walked through, now we're going to look for how to support that. And I had him working with the con, so that as the con was coming up with his arguments, they worked with the student's rebuttal. And so they were able to support each other and see where that matched. So this student was able to ask me a question at the beginning that would help with the initial, getting started, looking for the research and looking for things that would support the position. But then this student was able to kind of guide himself and with the partner also work towards each specific goal as we broke it down.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you may have scaffolded a little bit more for this student to reach the same learning intention that everybody else had.
Right.
Excellent.
Like I said, the small groups working together so that I'm able to kind of guide some students and let some students be more on their own, if they could be more independent.
How did you work to engage everybody in the process? And how did you allow students to have voice and choice and allow them to represent their information in various ways?
Yeah, that can really be tough for something like this. Like I said, thought talks can sometimes be an hour long. One of the first things I do with a class, this with all my classes, but a class like this, I have them sitting in a very large circle, so they're all facing one another, and our 3 main presenters are part of that circle. They have a designated spot at the table. This is a day when a lot of students will grab a fidget because they know how long they might be sitting. So I have the baskets with the stress balls and the different fidgets, so they can grab one of those because they know that they're only allowed to be on their cell phones if they are looking up like fact checking or something. So they'll usually grab one of those so they can keep themselves occupied if they tend to get a little fidgety. One of the things that is really engaging, though, I think for the students who are not on display is the fact that there is class participation throughout. When I started Thought Talks, there wasn't that many sections where students could ask questions, and I have now inserted after every little section of the Thought Talk, pro speeches, con speeches, rebuttal, after everything there's a section where students can ask me questions or the students or even each other, so that they can clarify their understanding, but also they get a chance to talk. they get a choice in how they're going to participate in terms of voting or voicing an opinion or making a statement or just asking a question. They also don't have to talk at all. Like I said, they can simply share their voice through raising their hand and voting. And the choice in terms of topics, it starts at the beginning. They're the ones who choose what they find to be relevant topics to discuss. They choose what they think is important, and then eventually the intention is for them to choose a side if they support or are against something. They do like the fact that for every topic, even if it's not theirs, they do have a say, they do get to learn the perspectives of others and share their voice in. Different students at different times. One of the things I do with my gifted and talented students during this process is I really work on them with questioning. So I will challenge them not only to have very quality research sources, specifically using databases rather than a simple Google search, but also when creating challenging questions for our Crossfire section, I challenge them to not just present their own side in a different way. I challenge them to create a question that challenges their opponent to really have to stop and think about their answer before they give it.
Great. And then based off of this information you pulled, I'm noticing that this student has a significantly lower reading level.
I tackle that very much at the beginning in terms of how I structure who's working with whom in terms of who's doing a pro or con position, who's working background. I find students in this situation really often feel more comfortable doing a background position where they are presenting an unbiased view of the situation, and the trouble comes with research. And so, whereas a student like this who's gifted and talented, I would set up with databases and structuring research that way. A student like this, I will guide a little bit more. I encourage them to bring earbuds so that they can do a lot of video watching, or just take the research that they're reading and put it into a Google Doc so they can have it read to them. But a lot more visual, a lot more verbal instead of just the reading. There is definitely reading in there, but it's supported by me and some of the programs that we use.
And you're not lowering the standard by any means. You're just going about it by having that student work is in a more informative writing and reading style rather than an argument.
And just feeling much more supported. Yeah.
Very good, very good.
I think it's really important for students to have a place that they can go where it's a friendly environment and they actually want to be there. And every single student that I've ever met that walks into Miss Brooks' classroom walks out with a smile on their face, and there's never a dull moment in there.
Well, coming from the background that I have, it's kind of a welcoming, calming environment, and it just makes me feel at home in a way. And it's just different from every other classroom because she lets you sit wherever you want, and she lets you kind of alter the class to an extent in the way you want to. And it's just a place that I feel welcome at.
What about some of the emotional and social needs? I noticed that you have this student who tends to be absent quite frequently. How did you design the thought talk to make sure that she would be successful?
So the way I structured this for her was I paired her with someone who was not necessarily gifted and talented, but someone who was very independent. I paired her as the con, whereas the student was the pro, so that they would be working in partnership. The con didn't need this student to be there, so it was okay that there was a lot of absences. That was not affecting the other students' work.
She tries to connect with us on a deeper level than just being your teacher. I like the lighting. Now she only uses lamps and stuff, which is really kind of nice. It kind of sets a nice tone.
You created an assignment that has a set goal that everybody will achieve. Then you go ahead and you learn about the students in your class. You design a learning experience for them to meet that goal and define success based off their individual needs to help them grow. And then you create a class experience that is engaging to their needs based off of their interests or who they are as individuals. And then you evaluate where they are. Have you seen success in planning lessons this way?
Yeah, I have. It's one of my favorite activities that we do, and thankfully we get to do it 10 times throughout the term for most classes, and it's come to be one of the favorite activities of students as well.
And she really just speaks to you, even if she's just talking to the whole classroom, and it's the best thing a student could ever ask for.